Oh, we're live. That's the problem. It's Curator on the Loose, live. You have no idea what's gonna happen. I have no idea what's gonna happen. We are here at the Museum of Flight's Jet Blast Bash. What the heck is that? That is our fun and festive weekend over Seafair, which happens in Seattle, Washington every August. We've got community booths, we've got a band, we've got bombers, we've got a bar, we've got barbecue, we have all the bees. You guys need to come down here and check this out because it is super cool. But today, we're gonna be focusing on the bees and that P. That's a patrol bomber. That's a PBY Catalina. We like to refer to her as the PB&J. Why? I don't know, because we're just weird. All right, let's go check her out. We're gonna find somebody to talk to, and we're gonna find out the story behind this PBY, because I hear it's actually really cool. Come on.
You're walking, someone's complimenting your hat.
By the way, the hat is available online at the Museum of Flight store, or better yet, just come in and grab one off the shelf. That's what I did. Okay, this is something I never knew. Check this out. This is a PBYA, which means it's an amphibian, which means it can land on water and on a runway. It's got landing gear. How cool is that? I've always wondered, how the heck did you get into this thing? There's really no serious looking hatch on this until the other day when they pulled up and bingo bango, there's a ladder in the back. How cool is that? I love that. Makes it super simple. Not really something that you want to deal with in the water though, I don't think. We have somebody coming over to talk to us about this PBY, and I hear his name is Coy. Coy.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to meet you, man.
So
tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with this plane, and then let's do a quick walk around and let's talk about some of the salient features of this plane and the history of it, because you were telling me earlier there's something really cool that this plane did in World War II.
Yeah. I was in
I guess I ought to use the mic.
I was in the Marine Corps in 2017. When I got out, I decided I was going to drive around the world.
Wow.
So I got an old Land Cruiser and shipped it over to Europe. And when I was over there, I ran across this aircraft in France. We put some money together, founded a foundation, donated it to the foundation, and we've been doing air shows and events ever since.
No way, that is really cool. Now you were telling me earlier that this plane actually served in World War II.
Yeah, this one was built in '43, and it served in the North Atlantic during World War II. In 1944, it was out on a meteorological flight, and U-boat 342 was on the surface charging its batteries. It spotted the PBY and started shooting at them. They circled around and strafed the U-boat and silenced the guns. They came around again and dropped 3 charges. I believe the 3rd charge hit. But you can look up the full combat report on our website, soaringbythesea.com, and read it word for word. They came around again and launched a torpedo. It got stuck on the wing, wouldn't release, but it didn't matter. The charge hit was good, and the U-boat went down with all hands.
No way, that is cool. So this is actually a combat veteran, which is cool because we've got another combat veteran out here we're going to talk about a little bit later, but that's a little bit out of your wheelhouse. Let's do a quick walk around about this. Tell me a little bit of, now, are you an actual pilot? Do you fly this thing?
I'm the director of the foundation,
okay.
So I hire pilots. We have Larry, who's in the front of the aircraft right now, doing all of our walkthrough tours, and we have Peter, who's over here by the tent.
Okay, so here's something I've noticed. What's with the golf ball?
So you can't see the landing gear from the cockpit. And so in order for us to see when the gear is down or up, we added this golf ball because you can see this.
Oh, that's awesome. I love how smart people are. Okay, now one of the things I was talking about earlier is how do you get in and out of this? I used to work at a museum where we had a PBY and I always wanted to go inside, but I could never figure out how the heck to get in there.
So during the war, originally, they had a ladder that mounted there and they climbed in through the blisters.
No way.
In 1946, when this was converted into an airliner, they put in the air stair that you see in the back here.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains a whole lot. Now, on the other side is actual hatch.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go talk. Another question while I'm thinking about it. No turret on the front.
Right.
Was this equipped with a turret originally?
It was originally. That was also removed in 46 to save weight and make it a little more aerodynamic.
Makes sense.
So-
Are you planning on replacing that at some point?
We plan on going back to full military with this. So we have the original turret, and we're at the point right now of just raising the funds to pay for the restoration to take this bow off and reinstall that turret and the bomb maimers glass and the bomb sight.
Wow. Okay, that's really exciting. When is that going to happen? Are you going to be back next year with...
No, I think it'll be the year after.
Okay.
We're raising funds this year, and barring any other expensive problems like the engine failure we had in Grand Cayman, we should be ready to go next winter to install it.
Yes. All right. Speaking of which, where are you guys actually stationed?
Eugene, Oregon.
Okay, so Oregonites, go check them out. Spend a little money, help them out, because what do we want to see? We want to see a PBY with the actual turret up front. You know you wanna, come on. All right, so now is this a hatch that was actually on the aircraft originally?
This is also an addition.
Wow, so they literally just had to climb in through the blisters?
That's it. So this aircraft has been flying its whole life. It's never been restored. It's always just been used and broken and repaired and flown again over and over and over in all the different roles, from airliner to water bomber fighting fires. It was a film studio in Africa for years. They took it over to South America, so it's just been retrofitted over and over, and now we're finally starting the process of putting it back to military.
Oh, that is really cool. It's just amazing to me that literally the only way into this plane was through a ladder.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
again, these guys were, what, 18, 19?
Yeah, oldest would have been, 22, 25, and they were all 5'6" and 130 pounds, so it was pretty easy for them to get around.
Yeah. All right, one thing I've noticed when you guys are here and you're giving tours, which they are giving tours, so if you want to see the inside of this plane, come on down to the Museum of Flight today or tomorrow. Tours are only $4. You can't even get coffee for $4. Come on, go see a plane. What's better, coffee or planes? They're actually good together, but the plane, way better. All right, one of the things I want to check out is these observation blisters were they also held a 30 or I think sometimes a 50. But what I've noticed is, look at what people are doing up there. They're standing up. It's like having a living room in your aircraft. This thing is so much bigger than I expected. How many crew did this thing carry?
So they originally had 10 crew. So out the back was a ventral hatch with a 30 cal machine gun. And then you had a 50 cal machine gun on each blister. And then you had your engineer who sat up in the pylon up there. You had your 2 pilots, you had a radio, radar, and navigation. And then you had forward of the cockpit was the bow gunner and bombardier.
Wow, I had no idea it carried so many people, because from the outside, it really doesn't look that big. I mean, yes, it's a big plane, but the way the fuselage is kind of made, it just doesn't look like there's that much room. But then you see people standing in there and you're like, holy cow, do you guys have a pool table in there?
Yeah, that's what everyone says. It's bigger on the inside.
It's kind of like the TARDIS plane.
Exactly.
Yeah, I knew somebody would get that. Thank you. All right, what else do we need to know about this plane that we have not covered? What's the top speed? You guys are probably booking it along at least 550.
We're probably the slowest airplane out here. This thing's basically a Cessna 172. I mean, we cruise at like 110, 120. We stall at like 45, 50. It's very slow, but what we do have that the other aircraft don't is we have range, and we can stay in the air for up to 24 hours.
Wow, no kidding. I was actually watching your video where you flew from France to Scotland to Iceland to Greenland and then over. How long did that take?
Airtime was 85 hours total from France to Oregon.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, we just got a super awesome question. And who is this? Who? Alton? Alton asks, did Consolidated make this aircraft?
No, it was designed by Consolidated, but this specific aircraft was actually built by Boeing. So it's the last Boeing-built PBY flying.
You guys need to get hooked up with Boeing.
Yeah, we do. You know anyone at Boeing?
Do we know anyone at Boeing? Only 400 of these were made by Boeing. Boeing, hello. Call me. You know how to get in touch with me. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Pacific Northwest Naval Air Museum up in Whidbey. That's a great little place, and they are trying to get a hold of a PBY. There was a PBY base there. If you guys kind of do a fly around when you leave here, that'd be cool.
They've been great. They helped sponsor us to bring us out here, and they helped us go to Hawaii in 2020 for that event. So they've been really supportive of our operation. We appreciate them a lot.
Nice. We love to see stuff like that. We're always helpful. All right. Before I got sidetracked by the question, what are we doing? Oh, what do we need to know about this plane that we have not covered already?
Well, I mean, the engines are Pratt & Whitney's 1830-92S's. That's actually the one easy thing to get for this aircraft. There's a couple engine shops you can still get parts for. Everything else is pretty difficult to get your hands on. A lot of stuff, if we can't find it, we have to make it. You'll notice that the whole back half of the wing is all fabric. So we just replaced all that last year.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, so that's all brand new.
Oh, wow.
So that should last another 40 years or so.
Nice. Now, are you using Seconite when you did that, or something, you know, a man-made material?
We used AirTech is who we use, and it's a new product, and we liked it quite a bit. It's pretty easy to use.
Nice. Excellent. Well, this thing looks amazing, and it's so great to have something like this out here, because when was the last time you guys saw a PBY? There are just not a ton of them out here. We got another question. Bella asks, why is there a maple leaf, and is this plane Canadian?
So this one was originally built to go to the British, but it got reassigned and it served with the 162nd Squadron, which is Canadian, up in the North Atlantic during the war.
Nice. Great question, Bella. Any more questions? We're kind of cranking here. Okay. We're getting close to our time here. What do you want to leave us with?
Oh, come out and see the plane.
Yeah.
You know, help keep us going. We appreciate everyone coming out, and that's what keeps us in the air.
So we're going to come see you in Eugene. You're a 501c3. You're going to accept us as volunteers. We're going to take a ride from one air show to another. It's going to be great. It's not going to be fast, but it's going to be fun. And when all of you come out here for Jet Blast Bash, you're going to stop by their trailer. You're going to pick up a really cool t-shirt, which supports the foundation, and you just rock a really cool t-shirt. Why would you not want to do that? Wade wants to know, what food did they carry?
So they actually had a full galley on board with a cook stove and everything, and I'm not sure exactly what food they'd have, but they had the capability to, you know, cook and make coffee, because their missions could be, you know, 18, 20 hours long sometimes. So they'd go up and have a few meals.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it might be cool to fly a fighter, but you can't have an omelet in a P-51. Think about that. All right, Coy, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
I'm going to come back and I'm going to go through there because I've never been in a PBY. We're going to go check out some other planes. Thanks, bud. All right, how cool was that? Seriously, you got a galley in your own plane? I love it. I mean, B-29s, B-17s, they had coffee. B-24s had coffee, but they didn't have a galley. You can't fry up an egg in a B-25. Well, I guess you could, but it would be really super messy. Ugh. Okay, speaking of B-25s, check this baby out. Remember how I said we had 2 combat veterans here? This B-25 actually flew in the Mediterranean theater over Italy. I am here with Mike Garrett. Mike is actually a volunteer at the Museum of Flight, cool number 1, and you run this whole kind of shebang with the 25 and the B-17,
Correct.
Cool number 2. Tell us how you got involved with that.
Well, I retired from Boeing after 36 years in 2015.
Okay.
And then I said I need to spend some time doing some things I love to do. And one of those is talk about airplanes. So I volunteered at the Museum of Flight, and I started doing tours with the Boeing B when it was out on the grass over here.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Out on the ramp. And then I said, well, I have time to become a docent. So I then did the 11-week training class and started that in 2016. At that point, we also went down to Phoenix and bought a house down there. And a gentleman by the name of Rick Paler, who was a docent here, said, you should join the Commemorative Air Force. So I went down to Mesa at Falcon Field and talked to them, and I became a docent down there. And then they said, you can fly in these planes. I said, what?
I'm yeah, sign me
up.
up.
A B-17, a B-25, and a C-47. So they signed me up. So I went out on tour in 2017 on the B-25. And then I became a tour coordinator, working for another guy, setting up all the tour stops, helping him out with hotels and all the other things on our 16 to 20 week tours every summer. And then he retired, and they asked me if I'd take over in 2019.
Wow, good for you.
So I said, sure, and that's almost a full-time job, especially this time of year. But it's a fun job.
Yeah.
I get to talk about airplanes, and I'm a docent, so I can not only be on tour, but I can talk to the media and the press.
Yeah.
And some of the training I got at Boeing about talking to the media in my jobs as an executive at Boeing. So, as well as knowledge about the airplanes, just did an interview with Dick, or a discussion with Dick Nelms with a big crowd over there. So that's fun too. So.
All right, so tell us a little bit about this particular B-25. She's a combat vet.
She is. So she's called Made in the Shade. She's a J model, which was the last model produced out of Kansas City, Missouri by North America.
I'm going to give you this mic. Let's do a walk and talk.
Okay.
And let's go take a look at that nose art, because frankly, I'm a nose art geek.
Yep.
And I just love the art on this plane.
Yeah, so
as a kid, I just loved the B-25, so I'm pretty excited to have this thing here.
So this is a J model which is recognizable by the additional 50 cals on both sides. Plus there's one fixed gun, the little one in the front there.
Right.
So the pilot has those for offense, not defense.
Right.
So the 550 cals he can shoot forward. This airplane was produced, came out of the factory in early '44 in Kansas City, went across the Atlantic via South America and Africa into Corsica, Italy, which is the map there.
Okay.
The island of Corsica. The little red rectangle is where the base was, the 319th Bombardment Group, the squadron in Sarajevo. So that's where she was stationed. This combat airplane had the blue nacelles for the squadron and the blue tail with the 18, so she's painted just like she was when she was flying for the 319th Bombardment Group. So all the groups, the squadrons were lined up along airports along the east coast of Corsica. And she flew 15 combat missions November, December of '44. So those consisted of 13 over Italy and 2 over Yugoslavia. Mostly railroad yards and bridges, railroad bridges.
Kind of tactical type stuff.
Yeah. So the B-25 was very versatile. This one does have a Norden bomb sight in it, so it could be used for high altitude bombing, but it migrated more into a ground attack type airplane.
Yeah.
Like the modern version, or the version back then of the modern A-10 Thunderbolt.
Right.
So it did a lot of ground attack. In the Pacific, it was used to attack Japanese shipping with these guns, as well as skip bombing. So they would fly low level in an element of 3, and it would drop a bomb which would bounce and then hit the side of the ship. And that would sink.
Let's run around to the other side, because there's something I've always wanted to know about, and I have a feeling you're going to know the answer. And if you don't, feel free to make something up.
Okay.
Because you guys aren't going to know. Well, actually you will, but it's funnier that way. So right back here, there's actually a hole. What is that for?
Which hole are we talking about?
There's that big, just circular hatch.
So that is the emergency escape hatch.
No kidding.
We open it up so it stays cooler. Yep. And so that's the hatch that if we were to have an emergency and we did a belly landing and we need to get passengers out, or the crew back in World War II, they'd come right out there.
I never knew that.
Yep.
You learn something every day. All right, so let's talk about engines.
You want me to cover the nose art? You were excited about the nose art. You want me to do that?
Are we not? Oh, there's more?
Well, you didn't. I didn't talk about the nose art.
Oh yeah, let's keep going on the nose art.
So let me just finish up. So this was not called Made in the Shade. It did not have a name. There was nothing there. So it's called Made in the Shade because when we acquired her in '81, she was restored in our new maintenance hangar. And the B-17, when we acquired her earlier, was not restored in the main. It was restored outside in Phoenix, Mesa in the heat. So we called her Made in the Shade because she was inside. And the maid is obviously a play on words, and that was one of our members who adorns the side of that there.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I can.
Engines?
Yeah, engines. One thing, I saw you guys take off yesterday. B-17 went first, 25 went second. This thing is so much louder than a B-17. What's going on with that?
Okay, so she has open stacks. The B-17 are all 9 cylinders are ganged together in one pipe.
Okay.
And they go through a turbocharger.
Okay.
So there's more noise suppression. Not designed as noise suppression, but it just follows a longer flow, spits up a turbine. These have 14 cylinders, and these are the open exhaust. Very short exhaust pipes. They come right out the side. It's a bigger engine. This is an R2800 compared to the B-17 R1820s. 14 cylinders, and in fact in the war there were 14 open stacks. You can see these which have been sealed up. There was a mod after the war where the top 7 were ganged together into this one pipe. So now you have 7 short stacks all at once too, so it actually makes it a little quieter, but not much. It's a very loud airplane inside and out, but also makes it very cool when you hear it take off. It's like, wow, that's
no kidding.
Very throaty sounding engine.
It is.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be flying today, correct?
Yeah.
And what time, if people want to come down and hear that throatiness?
The B-17, I believe, is taking off at 2:50 p.m.
Okay.
And in the box at 2:50.
Okay.
Takeoff, engine start's going to be around 2 o'clock out here on the ramp next to the museum.
So y'all need to come down here by at least 1:30 to see these things start up because it is really cool. We got another question. Okay, Alex asks, have you flown veterans in the B-25s and did you give them the controls?
We have flown veterans in both our planes, including the B-25. We don't give anybody control but our own pilots. But if you're a World War II veteran on these planes and are still able to get in and out of them, you get to ride for free.
Nice.
So space available. So if we have the space available.
What about museum curators?
Well, we can see what we can arrange.
That's like, no museum curators allowed.
No, we'll talk later.
All right, what is your favorite thing about this plane?
The favorite thing about this plane, one, is its combat history.
Yeah.
And 2, I get to talk about the Jimmy Doolittle raid.
Oh, yeah.
So it's mind-blowing to think about 16 B-25s taking off an aircraft carrier in World War II.
And after hearing this thing, what it must have been like for the deck crew, just deafening.
Yep. And just the feeling of those first guys, them all taking off.
Yeah.
Because they took off 5 hours early because the Japanese trawlers saw them and radioed back to Japan that they were coming. We didn't know if they radioed back or not, but we assumed they did. So they had to launch at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. That happened at 6 a.m. They saw the ship and set at noon. So as a result, 5 hours longer, they all thought they were on a suicide mission. That's what was going through their minds, that they were going to crash land in the China Sea, never to be seen again. But they thought that, but then they knew they compartmentalized and said, we got to bomb. Do a bombing mission first. And luckily, they got a tailwind, and 15 of the 16 either crash landed in the water right on the beach or over land. And the amazing thing is, of the 80 crew, only 3 died on bailout or crash landing.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
It is an amazing, I mean, to be able to have met some of those guys, that's just
and we have 3 of those guys. So when we, after 28 years of restoration, when we flew again in 2009, in 2010 we went to the Doolittle reunion. So they met every year in this awesome ceremony that they had. And Wright-Patterson and a group of B-25s went there, so we got the plaque of that inside the
oh, nice.
inside the cockpit.
Another question. Thank you, peeps. Hayden asks, is it true that that pilots experience hearing loss because how close the engines are?
They probably suffered some, but they also had, it's our pilots do headsets on.
Yeah.
And all of our passengers don't just have earplugs. They have
muffs.
ear muffs on.
Oh,
It's loud
okay.
in there. I mean, they can't ask me a whole lot of questions unless I take my ear and they put their mouth right next to my ear if they want to ask something. So we use a lot of hand signals as best we can, but if they have any questions or concerns, they can raise their hand and I'll get as close to them as I can. Not true on the 17, I can talk.
Yeah, 17's
normally
not
pretty
too bad.
much on the 17 after takeoff.
Yeah, I've been on the 17. It's not too bad. You know, it's loud, but it's not real bad. I can't imagine what it's like with these monsters roaring next to you.
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
And that's got to get old after 8 or 9 hours.
They didn't go up for that long. The range on these weren't quite, I would guess probably more 3 to 5 hour missions were probably more than normal. She was faster than 17, so she could cover ground
Oh, okay.
a lot more. She flew at about 200
Makes
miles
sense.
an hour to 150 miles an hour.
Nice.
But yeah, it's still a little nerve-wracking. But they weren't flying missions where there were sitting ducks like the 17 was so often. They were more maneuverable, and that's why more of them survived the war too, because the fleet wasn't quite as beat up.
Right.
One wasn't quite as beat up, and two, a lot of them were converted into trainers.
Okay.
So they were used for training purposes. So far more were converted to trainers, and then like ours, this one became a bug sprayer.
Oh, wow.
Or crop dust. These pretty much weren't used for firefighting because the bomb bay was too small for the hopper for that. But a lot of them survived the war because they were used as trainers, and then because the generals and whatnot liked them as their personal weapons because they were fast and maneuverable.
Yeah. So, where are you guys? I'm kind of skipping ahead, but where are you guys heading from here?
So we're here next week.
Yep.
We'll be up on the transient ramp here at the museum, and we'll be doing rides Thursday through Sunday.
Did you hear that?
Thursday.
Another week and offering rides.
And we're
Come
selling
on.
a lot of rides.
Yeah, so-
we're posting more.
Oh, good.
So, but we'll be open for tours Tuesday, Wednesday all day, and then Thursday through Sunday we'll be doing tours like we are right now, but just in the afternoon.
Nice. All right, Alex says, what's on the crest next to the nose art?
The crest of the nose art is the 319th Bombardment Group crest, which was the bomb group this squadron was part of.
And so, Alex, those are the 4 group insignia for the 4 groups of, squadrons of the group. Very cool. All right, let's go check out the B-17, one of my absolute favorites. You can never go wrong with a B-17. Now, this is not like almost every B-17 flying today is not a combat vet.
It is not. It is none of the active B-17s flying and none of the active B-17s flying in the last 10 years were combat vets. They were all built in late 44, early 45, so they were too late for the war.
Yeah.
So there was a surplus of B-17s at the end of the war because there really wasn't a whole lot of use in the military for B-17s. Ours was pretty unique in that it was shipped to the Philippines. All the guns and everything were stripped off it. It was used as search and sea rescue.
Oh, okay, a Dumbo.
Yep. So it had a big fairing underneath where it had a life raft, which they would, if pilots were down, crews were down, they could drop the life raft into the water.
Nice.
And something else.
Oh, that is very cool.
Unless the PBY was around, they would use this. It did quite a bit of mapping as well of the South Pacific Islands and whatnot. It was used for that. And the really unique one in the early 50s, it was used as a drone mothership. So this was configured to escort other B-17s as drones.
Wow.
We think of drones today. We don't think of drones in World War II or
drone.
This is a B-17 is a drone. So there were no crews on them, and they were flying through the atomic waste clouds of atomic bomb testing in the South Pacific. So they didn't want to expose crews to that. So they were loaded with filters and equipment, And this B-17, I think, could take 2 other B-17s with controllers inside. There'd be a
No
controller
kidding.
on the ground who would fly them off the ground, and then this would be up loitering in the air.
Wow.
Pick them up, fly them through those clouds, offset so they didn't have to go through them. Then they'd come back and land, and then they'd take this crane with a really long arm and grab those filters out of the top. Yeah, I got pictures.
No kidding.
They'd take the filters out of the top, and then because they're radioactive,
Yeah.
they would, and by the isotopes and the strength and the chemicals that were there, they could determine the yield of the bomb based on. It's pretty amazing that they could, based on just that, they could determine
That's crazy.
if the bomb was successful and what the yield was.
That is really cool. Now, one of the things we were talking about actually on the B-25, which we touched on, was the fact that the engine exhaust went into a turbo supercharger.
Correct.
Now, you guys are almost unique in that you actually use the turbo superchargers.
Yeah. There's only one other B-17 that does that. That's Yankee Lady, which operates out of Michigan. Yep, we got 4 of them. You want to go look at them?
Yeah, please.
Yep. So here's the exhaust. So a turbocharger is typically exhaust driven. A supercharger is gear driven off the engine. So this is the turbine side. So this is the hot section side. Up here is a compressor. You can't see it, but this is turning a compressor on the other side. And then the pilot, with the dial, can control all 4 with a wastegate. So the wastegate back here, if he doesn't want a full boost, the wastegate like it is right now is open. If he wants full turbo, he will close this.
Okay.
Okay, which will spin this up. Now the air on this is really hot, and the air on the compressor side is really hot. That's spinning up, so you need to put it through an intercooler.
Okay. So this is basically just like my Jeep. I got a 2.0 turbo in there. It's got an intercooler. It's got a wastegate. It's got a dual port.
Yep.
Where I can exhaust some of that air out to atmosphere. Some of it goes back in to keep that turbo spooled.
Yep.
Okay.
So this allows the plane to develop about 1,000 horsepower at 25,000 feet.
Wow.
Compared to 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah.
So it's only a 200 horsepower drop, which is pretty amazing.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
As my friend likes to say, with a turbo, the engine always thinks it's at sea level, more or less.
Yep.
Especially for a car. Okay. Tim wants to know. Tim wants to. I can't read your writing, Sean. Seriously, the people I have to work with. Just kidding. Tim wants to know. We're going back to the B-25. Did the B-25 have drop tanks?
It did not.
Did not.
So it operated with just fuel in the wing. They could put fuel in the bomb bay for long distance ferry flights going over the water, just like the 17 could. But no, it didn't have that.
All right, Tim, that's a great question because it'll lead us into a discussion here. Now, on B-17s, you could install tanks, and that happened at the factory, out in the outer panels of the wings.
Correct.
And they would call them Tokyo tanks because it'd give them an extra
1,000 gallons of fuel.
Wow. So that's a lot.
The F model, like the Boeing B, started with 1,700 gallons of fuel, and then later Fs added 4 250-gallon bladder tanks. So a bladder tank is like rubber, self-sealing for safety, and they put 2 on each side. So there's 2 out here and then 2 on the other side. So it takes it from 1,700 gallons to 2,700 gallons, which allowed the plane to do those 10 to 12-hour missions.
Wow.
And why they call them Tokyo tanks, I don't know, because this airplane never.
Yeah, by the time they were
Tokyo, but it was.
Maybe they were expecting it to.
It was really long range. We could go all the way to Tokyo if we wanted to use it.
You know what? If somebody knows out there, put it in the comments, and then we can talk about that. All right, I want to go check out the waist position because there's something there that's kind of cool, I think.
Okay.
You guys are going to dig it. We also have another question. Hayden wants to know, how is the B-17 pressurized, or did the crew use oxygen?
B-17 was not pressurized, so they were up on their longest missions in the summertime, 12 hours on oxygen.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot of time with a mask.
12 hours and minus 40 degrees to minus 60 in the wintertime. So they had heated suits in addition. So the oxygen, once they got up, they had portable oxygen bottles, which were green, which they carried around with them to walk through the plane, and then they would connect up the ship's oxygen when they got there.
You know, Hayden, that's a really good question, and it kind of makes me wonder if we should do an episode on what B-17 or B-24 or B-25, B-26 crewmen wore, because we've got a lot of that in our collection, and we could drag it out. So if you want to see something like that, inundate us with yays or nays, and I need more coffee, and we'll try to put something together, because I would totally be into that. Now, I thought I saw on this 50, you guys have a reflex sight. That's not something you normally see on a waist gun, but it is accurate.
Yeah, so these were the last changes made to the G model very late in the war. One is the plexiglass, and then the hard sight here, or the position here as opposed to on the Boeing BDF model, which was to the side, so you could pull the window. So this one provided a little bit more protection from the wind. It was still darn cold inside.
Oh yeah.
And those guns had the sight out here with the post, and then the circle with the cross in it was how they, the reflex sight, as you call it, gives them a little bit more ability, not as much as the ball turret on this airplane or the nose turret, but it gave them a little bit more ability for tracking the airplanes that they were shooting at. These all still had, every fifth round was a tracer, so that was still in play.
Actually see where your bullets are going.
Yeah, so not a lot more improvement compared to what they had with just the regular waist gun with the crosshair, so to speak.
All right, one thing, I'm standing here looking at it, so we'll just talk about it. You'll see on almost every B-17, the leading edges have been painted black, but that actually is there for a reason, because it replicates something.
Yep. So first done on the Boeing 247, which had them as well, and replicated on the B-17. A lot of things in the 247 were brought over to 17. These were pneumatic de-icing boots. So this was a piece of rubber that would be on the horizontal as well as the wing, and then it's compressed air would go in there and it would flex this a little bit, and it's called de-icing as opposed to anti-icing because it allows the ice to form. And then the pilot would cycle the pneumatics and this would blow up a little bit and the ice would
break off. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, as opposed to anti-icing, which you would heat the leading edge and never allow the ice to form.
Right. That's one of the things that I would love to do on our B-17F, is to put that system back on, not necessarily make it work.
Yeah.
But I think since it's outside, that rubber would probably not stand the...
Well, and you'd have to have somebody custom make that.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody's maintaining those anymore.
Yeah.
We don't fly in those conditions. We're not allowed to fly in those conditions.
Yeah. Well, and you wouldn't want to anyway. No. Who wants to risk something like this?
All right,
let's keep walking around, because this is just, we've got... Mike, you're totally the expert here, so we're gonna use you until we use you up. Another thing, actually, while I'm looking at it, is that we want to add to our B-17 are these formation lights. One of the things that we're missing on our F model is that formation light right there. Mm-hmm. We've got the outer one, but we don't have the inner one. So if you know a place to get those, let me know.
Okay.
You got to work the system while you're doing the videos.
So this is another interesting feature. I'll tell you. This is
absolutely.
This is called a Cheyenne tail. So the Boeing B has the normal tail, which is the tail gunner position is smaller with less visibility, more metal. So this is the Cheyenne tail, which came out later. It's called Cheyenne because of Cheyenne, Wyoming, which was a United Airlines modification center. If you don't know, many of the B-17s, most of them would go to Cheyenne for any post-production mods that were not incorporated in the line yet. So a lot of the mods that happen on airplanes were first done in Cheyenne, and they said, okay, let's do them back in Long Beach, at Vega, at Lockheed Vega and Burbank, or here. Because when you're making 12 to 16 a day, you don't want to make any changes until you do a production cut for a whole bunch of things, not just one thing.
One thing, yeah.
So
makes
this
sense.
gives them more visibility, same bicycle seat and everything else as the Boeing B.
A lot more traverse and azimuth on this thing.
Yeah, and then you
elevation.
also don't have the closing canvas here like you do there. This one is this way. I have not seen a camera on this one. There is a camera. The cool thing on the
I noticed that when we were
camera with a mirror, so the camera's here and the mirror's here. So
we were just looking at that the other day because we have actually taken off that canvas to have it remade because it looks horrible after 20 some odd years. And there's that camera, and we had no idea there was actually a gun camera.
Oh yeah, I've known it for quite a while. When I asked somebody about it.
Do you want to trade jobs?
No. Yeah, you're behind the times. Now these are signal lights. Okay, so this is interesting. So if it was nighttime and they were coming back from a mission, and they saw lights coming from behind them, he could send a signal to say, "Do you have the right code?"
Oh.
Because if not, I'm going to shoot you down.
Interesting.
Even in daytime, if you can't, is that a Spitfire or is that if I'm coming over the English Channel, is somebody chasing me or is that a good guy? For one, if you were a Spitfire, you wouldn't want to come in on the back of a B-17 unidentified. Those are there so he can do signals and see if he gets the right response.
That's very cool. All right, boy, we're being inundated with questions. This is awesome. Bella wants to know how many B-17s were made in Seattle.
That number I think is around 8,000, I believe. It was more than half. Boeing built the majority, but it started producing them at Lockheed, Vega, and Douglas Long Beach plant with the F models.
Right.
So everything before that was all Boeing.
All Boeing. Oh. One moment. It's like we're at an airport. How rude.
So I got a lot of numbers in my head, but I can't keep all of them. But Boeing made a large number of the B-17s, and then with the F model, they cut over to the other two producers as well as the Gs.
All right, Wade, here's another one for just numbers in your head. Wade wants to know, what was the bomb load?
The bomb load could be up to 10,000 pounds with the right size bomb, but the priority, your bomb load could only be dependent upon how far you had to go. So the first thing was you had to have the fuel to get there, and then whatever you had left over was bombs, first priority, bullets, second priority. So the bomb load on this airplane was typically 4,000 to 6,000 pounds in the war. So 10 500-pound bombs, 5 in each bomb bay was a very typical load. That was the most common bomb, was a 500-pound general use bomb.
We're actually restoring an M5 bomb trailer that they would have used to carry the weaponry out to the planes, and we're going to have that by the B-29 with a load of different bomb types, which is going to be really cool.
Yeah, they had their armament bunkers like on the other side of the field, so if the Germans bombed it, you wouldn't be blowing up.
Yeah, exactly.
And then while the crews were in their briefings, the armament group would be loading the bullets and bringing the bombs over, putting the fuses on and hoisting them up and down.
Speaking of Bombay, let's poke our head up in there, I think. That's kind of cool stuff. Okay. Oh, wow. Neat.
Yeah, I'd like to get the shackles and the fuses to put on here, which you guys have, so I can talk about them.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we may be able to help with that.
Yep. Well, that'd be nice.
We're actually going to start making some fiberglass bombs with turned aluminum fusing and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
So yeah, we'll talk. We always like to help out other people.
I just like to have a shackle here.
Yes.
Just so I can show, because they're on there, but I can't show them when they're connected.
Yeah, exactly. And that really is the thing that dropped the bomb. You know, the bomb wasn't attached directly to the plane.
Right.
And we don't have one to show. But if you come to the museum, we do have a really cool setup outside of the B-17 that shows a Norden bomb sight, what the crew would have worn, actually that shackle that held the bomb into the bomb rack. There's all that kind of cool stuff, and our volunteers out there know a ton of stuff about that. So check that out the next time you're here.
And I volunteer out there, and many thanks to Keith Mann for putting that all together.
Yeah, Keith did an amazing job. So shout out to Keith Mann. Now, there are a lot of signatures in here.
Yep.
What's going on with
this
that?
This is kind of Wall of Fame. These are World War II veterans. Most of them who flew B-17s, but there's some Rosie the Riveters names.
Oh, nice.
That helped build these airplanes in the war. And
that's
these are
really
people
cool.
Who have been come to see us. If they were able to, they flew on us. If not, they still signed the Bombay. We got Dick's name right over here, Dick Nelms, who flew with us last year.
Oh yeah.
So when I interview them, I do all the writing, so they don't have to write it all down. But because I want to know where we were, how old they are, what position they flew, what bomb group, what squadron, and what.
Oh, that's very cool.
What months of the year that they flew and the name of their plane, if I can get it. I'll talk to you about a really unique one, if I may.
Oh yeah, please.
In Modesto in 2019, Eugene Mold came out, and he flew B-24s and B-25s as a first pilot, left seat. He flew F models painted black.
Wow.
And they were painted black as they flew night missions underneath the Lancasters, dropping propaganda leaflets.
No kidding.
So these were the guys who dropped the bombs that were rolled up leaflets telling them, the German people, the war is rise up against Hitler. It's time to, and we did this in Japan too. So he flew his 43 missions all at night. There was only one squadron that did that, and they were flying F models because they didn't need the chin turret. So they made use of the old F models by flying them at night and painting them all black. So that was only one squadron did that.
That's really cool. Man, that's what I love about this. There's so much in here that...
Yeah, and unfortunately the signatures tend to fade away a little bit on here. Sam Satoriano he had himself and all of us crying, telling his story, flying F models. This was the time of the Memphis Belle, 42 and 43.
Oof.
And he flew his 25 missions. He was 100 years old at the time. We saw him in Modesto, and he survived. And it was that old and survived being a pilot in the time when only 1 in 3 made it home safely.
Wow.
And he was telling stories and remembering things like it was yesterday, just like Dick does.
That's amazing.
It was incredible.
So amazing.
Yeah.
It is gonna get loud.
We'll take a look at it too.
Yeah, we're gonna break for a second so you guys can see the growlers are gonna take off, because that's super cool. Plug your ears. Got to make sure all the flight controls work. And away we go, baby. Feel that in your chest. You know what my friend likes to say? You know what that sound is? That's the sound of freedom right there.
Wrap up after this question because they got to clear the ramp.
Okay, all right. We got to clear the ramp here pretty soon, so we're going to wrap up. One last question. Hayden asks, why did they stop painting B-17s green?
Well, they were painting green to be kind of camouflaged over the forests of Germany and on the ground to be camouflaged in, but the reality was everybody knew they were coming because of the contrails in the air.
Yeah.
And
Germany's
Germany
well-developed.
pretty much knew there's a runway there, and there's big circles where all the B-17s were parked inside. So to save weight and time, they basically didn't paint them anymore. There was one downside; it was a little bit more drag. The
Interesting.
paint actually helps seal up and give a smoother surface. But
okay.
basically, the ones that were produced, the Gs later in the war, were basically all straight aluminum.
Yeah, just like yours. Which I've noticed yours is polished aluminum and not painted. That is really cool.
Unlike Made in the Shade, which
Yeah.
is aluminum and painted gray to look like aluminum.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you
This
very
has been
much.
awesome.
Appreciate it.
So please come down. We're here today and tomorrow. The weather, despite the clouds, it's actually great. It's not raining. It's, I don't know, it's what, 74 degrees? Come on. Come down here. Check out some warbirds. Check out the blues. Get a burger. Have a beer. You could be like vacuuming or something. Well, I'd rather be down here. All right, if you've got questions and comments, you know what to do. Check out the store for this hat because we've had people ask about it. You can get it online, or better yet, again, come down to the store, pick it up in the store, and go see the museum. Talk to Mike. He's a volunteer here. Have fun. Get out of the house. All right, we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.